I am asking you to ask a question. And to ask a question does not give you room to ask supplementary question before the main question. It's an abuse of the opportunity being given to you. May you proceed and ask your question.
Mr. Chairman.
Chairman, wait. No, wait. Chairman, with the greatest respect, I know you are an advocate, you do a lot of cross-examination. You cannot raise your voice on a member. He is a first timer. When he makes a mistake, let's correct him in a manner that would encourage him to enjoy Parliament. He's a new member. Please, with the greatest respect, I know it was not your intention, but knowing you when you get your client in a tight corner, how you deal with them. I beg you, this is not your client. I beg you. Neither is he. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Honourable member, ask your question.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. But first of all, I did not even make a mistake in the first place. Just for the records, I did seek leave.
Go ahead and ask the question,
and
please.
Once it wasn't approved, then I proceed to my substantive. That's all, Mr. Chairman. And thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for the clarity. And I will proceed. Honourable nominee, I would like to refer you to a publication on the 15th of March, 2021. And I want to paraphrase because I don't want to miss any word. And I quote, Ghana today, we are complaining that this gambling is destroying our youth. I've read a number of articles on this. I would have thought that the government will come out with a policy to restrict gambling and to even ban it, he said. And this was a quotation attributed to you, Honourable nominee. I want to ask and proceed on this. Do you still stand by this position of banning gambling and banning betting and all that in its entirety, or now your position has changed? That's what I wanted to ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I think it's a very good question, and it's an opportunity for me to clarify. Mr. Chairman, I was on a show with the Honourable Kojo Opon Nkrumah, and the contest must come out. The Honourable Kojo Opon Nkrumah, at the time Minister for Information, I'm sure, had the responsibility to sell a government policy on betting. And he said, I'm surprised you are not bringing that portion. He said that betting tax is being implemented because it is destroying our youth, and that the government is introducing this betting tax the government is introducing this betting tax to deter them, equivalent to a sin tax, so that they will not be staking the bet. I retorted on a show being hosted by Evans Mensah on Joy FM PM Express. I retorted by saying that will not solve the problem. That will not solve the problem because I've read a number of articles, and the article presupposes or suggests that it is destroying our youth. And so if you want to introduce a tax, you have to first look at the elasticities, and as to whether the elasticities will mean that imposing such a tax will prevent the individual or the people concerned from the staking of the VAT, of the betting or not. But I doubt that will. And so if you intend doing that, the best option is to ban it and not to introduce a tax. And I said, the tax will not solve the problem. Here we are today. I've been vindicated. Has the tax solved the problem as intended by the government? Big no. I insist that that tax must be abolished. And as Minister of Finance, my first budget, I will abolish the betting tax. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. We don't do that in Parliament. We say here.
No, but they are not.
You have to say that. The next person is Honourable Mama Area.
It's my friend, until I was given an opportunity to ask the question. And she started heckling me even before I've asked the question. Congratulations, my leader. My real question was to ask you how prepared you are to deal with the multitude of economic challenges confronting Ghana. But after listening to you within these few minutes, I thought it wise to abandon my question. Because even before asking, you have made a case demonstrating your readiness and preparedness to confront the problems of Ghana with greater expertise and finesse than we have seen in the past. So I have a few questions focusing on what my brother and former majority leader and now minority leader raised in his thesis that he read before we started. Oh, it's very beautiful. Thesis.
One member, continue. Proceed.
Number one, will you abolish the E-Levy?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, my position on the E-Levy is well known. I do not intend to run from it. I've written articles against the E-Levy. I championed opposition against the E-Levy. I still stand by them. Mr. Chairman, the E-Levy is neither a direct tax, indirect tax, or an excise tax. I don't know how to classify the E-Levy as a tax practitioner. Mr. Chairman, it doesn't mean that I do not recognize that the E-Levy brings in certain revenue. But the fact remains that the E-Levy retards our progress towards a cash-light economy and the fintech. We need to abolish the E-Levy. I have said, and I'm on record to have said, that given the opportunity to abolish the E-Levy, to increase the revenue from 13.8, tax revenue from 13.8% of GDP to about 16 to 18%. That will be able to compare ourselves to our peers. I believe the potentials are out there. It doesn't necessarily mean we should increase taxes. Yes, we have obviously announced that we are going to scrap certain taxes. We'll stick to just that. But it doesn't also mean that we don't care about the revenue. We care about the revenue. And we will have to do more on revenue. But it doesn't necessarily mean we should increase taxes. Some of the taxes out there are not bringing in the revenue that it should. For example, the betting tax is bringing in less than 50 million Ghana cedis a year. It's a nuisance tax. Scrapping 50 million Ghana cedis will not mean anything in a way that will affect the economy if you are to adjust, particularly from the expenditure side. I mean, the noise with the betting tax and all does not comprehend the imposition of such a tax. And so I believe that scrapping such a tax will not necessarily affect the forward march of the Ghanaian economy. Thank you.
Very much. Your last question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Historically, there have been a lot of macroeconomic policy focus on inflation and exchange rates. Yet the AGI and others in the private sector still complain of high interest rates affecting their businesses. So what are you going to do, given a nod, differently? What are you going to do differently to ensure that our macroeconomic policies are more effective in lowering interest rates for the private sector? Thank you.
Thank you. I think government has a key role to play in this, particularly the fiscal authorities. I say this because if the country is actively in the market, borrowing every week, I mean, if you look at the T-bill market today, every single week we roll over 111 billion Ghana cedis. And if you were to roll over 111 billion Ghana cedis week in, week out, the exchange rate, the interest rate will certainly go up. And you should also understand that interest rates sometimes are a function of inflation. And that is why, personally, I believe there was the need for us to immediately work to bring inflation down. And then also work in such a way that we can stabilize inflation, stabilize the exchange rate, and create jobs. Until we do such a thing, certainly the concerns you've raised will still be there. And there's a lot of work we have to do. It starts from the fiscal authorities. We need to cut expenditure. The time is now. We have to cut the waste. And if you cut the waste, certainly you'll be able to, you will not be able to, you will certainly go to the market in a careful way that you will not be borrowing as much as you are borrowing today. And that in itself, you won't crowd out the private sector and you will be bringing down the inflation in a way that interest rate will come down. Thank you.
Leader, the ranking member has one follow-up question.
Thank you. Chairman, thank you very much. Leader, you said in a response to our respected colleague's question about tax revenue that as a nation, we don't need to necessarily raise revenue through taxes. I mean, that's then clarified so that I can lay the proper foundation, please.
Mr. Chairman, I did not say that.
I just want you to clarify the point then.
I said we do not necessarily have to raise tax revenue by increasing the tax rate. It doesn't mean the same.
So how do you juxtapose that within the context of your previous position in respect of incentives to the private sector? We've had a private sector policy by the previous government where the whole intent was to free the space for the private sector so that they can invest more, so that they can employ more. You held a position strongly against that incentive, that taxes be necessarily imposed on raw materials that are imported for manufacturing purposes in the country, on equipment that are imported for manufacturing in the country.
My position...
Honorable nominee, before you come in, Honorable Mama Yarga is on point of order.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, the nominee did not say that taxes should not be imposed on raw materials. The issue was whether or not taxes already imposed should be received or exempted by this House. So let's communicate accurately.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ayerga. The nominee is capable of answering the question, so proceed to answer the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, my position on tax exemptions are well known. I do not intend to hide from that, and I won't hide from that. Mr. Chairman, tax exemption is gradually becoming a major source of tax expenditure in our fiscal framework. Unfortunately, it's not properly targeted, and so you see a situation where we exempt huge volumes of our taxes to particular companies. At the same time, because we are exempting those taxes, we end up increasing these tax rates for so many other people to pay. I believe everyone else must be given the opportunity to pay taxes. My concern, particularly with the one that you are making reference to, I'm sure it has to do with 1D, 1F. It is not transparent enough. I do not believe that certain individuals must be privileged enough to get tax exemptions, whilst others doing the same should not be given the opportunity to get tax exemption. And I have contended in the past that if the government insists on tax exemption for 1D, 1F, they should put it in the law and allow everyone else to benefit from such tax exemption. My main concern, particularly my criticism against the 1D, 1F, has to do with the opaque manner that it has been done in the past. And I still stand by that. If the government, or if this current government still believes that tax exemption 1D, 1F is irrelevant, then obviously my suggestion is put it in the law. Let everyone benefit from it, but don't pick and choose and decide who should benefit from such a tax exemption. I think it's wrong, and taxation must be fair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your last follow-up question.
Chairman, thank you. Leader, I'm making this point as a result of what you just said. Yes, you complain of the lack of transparency. But for the records, and Honorable Yabuama is here, he chaired the committee. You may recall that as a result of those concerns, government at the time was able to meet those concerns to the extent that there was even a waiver on one item, raw materials. In fact, let me say not waiver, the raw materials component was taken out of the whole exemption. And through scrutiny, the request was very much reduced. Would you say that it was purely political because those concerns were addressed? But you still said no.
Mr. Chairman, I have no regrets for saying no. I have no regrets in the sense that when these taxes were introduced, tax exemptions were introduced to us in this House, initially we were called upon to exempt approximately $458 million. Upon my insistence, the Minister of Finance went back to working together with the Minister for Trade and brought it down to about $100 million. So straight away, I saved the nation approximately $400 million, about $358 million, obviously because of my insistence. I still felt there was the need for us to do more. And that $100 million, I could still see things that I disagree. And so, Mr. Chairman, I have no regrets, and I think I did what is right for Ghana and for all of us. Because clearly, it wasn't right for us to grant some of those tax exemptions. I wasn't alone. Colleagues from the Finance Committee agreed with me, and together we fought it. But obviously, I did not champion this alone. Let me also use this platform to pay tribute to Honorable Kweku Kwati. Honorable Kweku Kwati was instrumental in the fight against this tax exemption because he agreed with me that these taxes were certainly not right, and we are working for Ghana. And if we can save $558 million, look at Accra Kumasi Road. We could use that money to fix the Accra Kumasi Road. I think it wasn't necessary for us to approve that tax and those concerns. It's not personal, it's not political, but we did it with the right intention, obviously for God and country. Thank you.